Stop.
On the way here, it's stuff like that.
Okay, I guess we'll get started. We'll get started and, we had 5 of us here. Now Kelly stepped out again, but I think she'll be.
You get an ice pack or something since she fell on her hand.
Oh,
Ow.
so fortunately, we did not have the field trip to the nursing homes. And then Al and I were gonna try to squeeze in, a trip there ourselves. And, that we haven't been able to pull that off, given everything else going on. But we thought we'd try to just talk about, where we are and what, people have any ideas of how we might, envision our plan. Okay. Roll.
All right, I'll do like,
Um,
Alan Holland, I'm here. Representative Kaczynski, you're. Representative Lamontagne is here. Representative LaRochelle is.
Present.
Representative Potenza.
Here,
Painfully present.
yes.
And Representative Wall is not. And we have a quorum.
Representative England and President.
Oh, yeah, Representative England's on too, sorry. Oh, I guess you're supposed to ask his representative, why he's not here and, he's alone in the room.
Not feeling well, probably. Billy's not feeling well. The nice one, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, he's on the wrist.
I
What?
fell and hurt my hand and,
Yeah, it is.
yeah, no, not.
Sorry. Well. Well, we have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Someone?
A motion to approve them.
Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes?
Oh, you gotta do a roll call because Representative England is on. So.
Oh, okay. All right, he's there.
Al, let me. All right,
So, let's go
we'll go through it. So it's, Representative England,
Aye.
Representative Howland, I'll say yes. Representative Kaczynski,
Yes.
Representative Lamontagne,
yes.
Representative LaRochelle.
Here.
This is the motion to approve the minutes. Yes, Representative Potenza,
Yes.
Representative Wall.
Yes.
I think I got everybody that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is that correct? All right.
So I had emailed this around earlier, and then I got some copies from the, I don't know if you have one, or from the New Hampshire Hospital Association.
Yeah.
That, which I, it sent it on the Health and Human Services Select Committee, and they were, talking about, well, many issues about oversight in the hospitals, but one of them was these people that are stuck in the hospital
Right.
and have no place to go. And it really is a big problem. It really made me think about what is the role of the county nursing home. Is that for many people, they're in the hospital, medically cleared for discharge, but they have no place to go, and it's often for lack of a long-term care bed that they can afford. Or sometimes they said it's just the family members refuse to sign off to bring them home because they don't feel they're safe and it's still ready to go. So that's just one more aspect of what role the county plays in providing long-term care in the county where there's no other place for that. And right now, I believe there's a waiting list to get into Riverside, which didn't used to be the case. So any other thoughts about that?
Can I just address that for one
Yeah.
second? The hospital directors have contacted us, have been contacting us for a year and a half, almost 2 years. The CEOs of the hospitals saying that they want us to do something, want the county to do something about this problem.
Yeah.
And, you know, our answer's been the same right along, just we don't have there's no room at the inn, number one. Number one, two, we can't hire staff. They want us to, I was trying to come up with some idea with them to think out of the box a little bit to figure out if they were willing to pay an additional rate. Did you remember the hospitals are losing $10,000 a day with these folks sitting there? And they don't particularly like that too much.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, maybe there was a way they could reimburse us more money so we could hire some additional staff. It wouldn't happen right away because we'd have to work our way into it. But they just texted me yesterday and said, I think we gotta meet again to talk about this because they're not happy with the fact that people are sitting there and they're losing money. It's not that we don't wanna help them, we just are not in a position to help them.
Yeah.
That's what it kind of boils down. We do as much as we can. Most of our intake from the hospitals come from Wentworth. You get some from Frisbee, but most of it comes from Wentworth. And then none of this information is good information, but it's not a surprise to us. Because we're in the middle of it, dealing with it.
Right.
And having the conversations about how we're gonna handle it. Just so.
Yeah.
I have just a question on it, because it comes back to kind of, what I sent, which is the fiscal policy stuff, which is what is the county's obligation. So if to that, let's take an example out there. So there's somebody who's sitting at Wentworth Douglas and they're kind of parked at Wentworth Douglas and they can't take care of themselves. So they would have to, first of all, show that they're qualified for healthcare services. They'd have to apply, right? And then they also then are applying, is that for Medicaid to do it? So,
Well, they could be private pay too.
but in this case, suppose they have no assets and they're applying
Okay.
for
Yeah.
Medicaid.
Yeah.
And they're sitting at Wentworth Douglas Hospital.
Yeah.
If they're approved for nursing care and they're approved for Medicaid payment, irrespective of where they went, the county would be obligated to pay
Half, up to, 47, is it 46 or 47%?
Yeah, we're obligated to pay
Pay for that.
the non-federal. share.
Non-federal share. Right.
Exactly, so the feds pick up 50%, the
Right.
state is supposed to pick up 50%, which is actually in that carve out for nursing care is actually
The county.
the county's paying. So it's like, so irrespective of, so that person that's sitting they've been approved, they have no money, they are approved for Medicaid, they can go theoretically anywhere they wanted to.
Right.
I thought we said, so in that case,
Anywhere
if,
that, any,
Anywhere
anywhere
it's like
that they
acceptable.
would take.
anywhere they would take it.
They gotta be able to take them.
So somebody says, okay, you know what, we have an empty bed at our house, at our nursing facility. We're gonna take this guy or what man or woman, and they're on Medicaid. They can't charge more than Medicaid though, right?
That's correct.
That's correct.
So they would be taking this patient, and I think this is kind of a thing in my mind, is so the and that's in that fiscal policy, the county makes up the delta for the actual care versus the reimbursement, and that's what's taxed. So the private facility, in order for them to absorb that cost, in the fiscal policy, they say it's, you know, they have to diversify their portfolio, but they have to use private funds to offset the actual cost.
Correct.
So no one would take them because they don't have, or that you could.
It just depends on the nature of how sick they are, what the dynamic is of it, but you know.
It depends on their level of care.
Right.
So a heavier level of care person, you know, qualifying to be in a nursing home and being covered by Medicaid, it's a whole broad range of illnesses. Right up from a chronic illness that that you could live for a long time to something that you could die in a week. So there's this whole broad range. What happens is the private nursing homes, the county says, take what you'd like. If there's somebody you can't, I'm talking about Strafford, I'm not talking about any other county.
Right.
I'm not versed in how any other county operates. Take who you would like and who you feel you can manage. Those that you can't manage, then let the county take them. And that way, it enables the private nursing homes to stay in business. Because they can manage the level of care. And balance that with their staffing.
Right.
And then Strafford County will,
And
you
your
know,
costs.
will take the difference.
But they could do so in the billing part, like when they took that person, cause I noticed, and that's in this thingy that I handed out, which is the Sullivan County thing. And I was really confused by it. And the second page of it, it's like, it says the private pay daily rate for Sullivan County homes are $400 for semi-private and $430 for private. And it says this rate does not include physical, occupational, and speech therapies as ordered by a physician. So in that case, which has got all the expensive stuff. So in that case, if the person is sitting at the private pay, they're able to bill their private insurance company for those things?
Well, first of all, that's inaccurate information according to, what I did is took your document and sent it to
Yeah.
the Sullivan County people. You can't, that's against regulation to do that.
Okay,
You can't accept someone for whatever the rate may be, but let's talk about Medicaid, because
Okay.
that's really what we're talking about here. You can't accept somebody at the Medicaid rate and then deny them certain services that a physician orders simply because you don't wanna pay for it. You can't say, no, I'm sorry, you don't get physical therapy, even though your doctor's ordered it, you don't get it. You can't do that. You have to provide full care, for whatever resident you accept and whatever the doctor orders for that full care. That's why Medicaid has a survey process where inspectors come to your facility. And I mean, they look at a million things, but that's one of the things they look at is that you're providing doctor's ordered care.
so that this speaks to just what you said though, because so you have a patient who's coming to you and they require like, all of those services, right? And you're only getting Medicaid reimbursement, you can't make money off that, you're gonna lose money off that.
You're gonna lose money on Medicaid service because
Yeah, they don't.
you understand the basis of the system, right? The basis of the system is, and this has been in place for 20 or 30 years. Everybody submits a cost report. We do, every nursing home submits a cost report depending on what your fiscal year is. Ours is December 31st. So by March 31st, we need to submit a cost report for all our costs for the previous year. The state then spends a year reviewing that cost report. They don't review it within any current time. And then they determine what your costs would be. you know, what your legitimate Medicaid costs would be based on Medicaid's definition. Then, they do that for all the nursing homes. And they bring them up to date, meaning that if you're a June 30th end of the year, they bring you to they bring everybody to an equal date. It's like an equalized assessed evaluation for taxes. Then they go in and see how much money's it's been appropriated by the legislature. And then they cut the rate that amount of money. Right now, the cut's just short of 30%. So they take your Medicaid costs, the average cost for everybody, and they say, okay, if you have this many people on the Medicaid system, and the average cost is this, but we only have this, then they cut everybody's rate in equal percentage. Not an equal amount, an equal percentage.
Mhm.
And right now it's around 30%.
And then the past just, and then the county makes up the difference.
Well, whatever the nursing home is makes up the
nursing
difference.
So
No,
that-
nursing home makes up the
The
difference.
nursing home makes
Yeah,
up the
so
difference.
that's, which is the county
Which is the
tax, the
county,
county tax rate. So the thing is,
Not really.
Well,
It's up to that nursing home to make up the difference. You're absolutely correct.
Correct.
They make up the difference, and that's why they need an alternative source of revenue to break even, and that's why they limit the number of Medicaid people that they take.
well, that, I mean,
Because they can't afford to take, like we do, the number of Medicaid people that we take, because they lose money on every single.
but I mean.
Al's point
the-
is that if we take a high percentage of Medicaid and they cut the cost at 30, they have the budget neutrality factor at 30%. We are making that difference up.
For our own nursing.
For our own.
Yeah, I mean,
But every nursing home.
that was my, I mean, if you're private, they say it's you diversify your portfolio,
Correct.
which is like you're using private pay makes up the
Correct.
difference. So in other words, if you looked at the county budget and you looked at our nursing home, the cost that is not reimbursed by the state is made up by the county, the delta of
That's
the
right.
actual operating cost versus what you're being reimbursed.
That's right.
And it's like, so in your system, when you're talking about, and this is a long-winded way back to that example in the person in the hospital, if the actual facility cannot say no to the kind of care that you give, it really makes a difference where that person's gonna go. Because if you have somebody who's a train wreck with all kinds of really expensive services, this happens actually in the school districts with special ed students. But somebody who's gonna cost a significant amount of money, the private pay does not have enough, you don't have enough to make up the delta of that person or those persons. They could take some, but not the worst, and the county becomes the backstop for the most costly cases, because the money that can be made up is from the
That's
taxpayers.
correct.
That's correct.
And that's a problem, and that's a huge problem. So I wanna just interject, because you basically said you're talking to private hospital corporations in regards with their problem. That is not our problem. That is their problem. So, and you shouldn't be having private conversations as a public commissioner with private corporations and their problem of it's costing them $10,000 a day. That's not our problem. Okay, so. And so I really.
Well, you can criticize the fact.
I'm
that-
not criticizing, I'm just stating a fact that that our problem as a delegation, as a county, is not the hospital's problem. Private corporations that are billions of dollars of revenue that they are taking in, okay? My kid has been in the hospital, in every hospital network, she's in Ohio now, for literally over 3 years. So I know this space. Our insurance has covered more than $2.5 million for her care, okay? And she's been to Boston Children's, to Dartmouth, to Connecticut Children's, and now she's at Nationwide Children's Hospital. I know this space extremely well. These, a Tylenol costs $500, okay? So we should not be concerned at all with the problems that are happening at private corporations. That's a bigger deal, that's a federal government deal, that's all of that. We are not gonna be the stopgap for that.
Can I?
So-
I don't think we're concerned about that, we're concerned about the people.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't,
That's got nothing to do with it.
I think we're missing the point. We don't care about what the hospital loses or doesn't lose.
Right.
We're simply leveraging that.
Yeah.
We're simply leveraging that might help us financially. I don't care about what they lose. I don't care if they lose whatever. I just care that the people that aren't being cared for in the hospital, and I don't mean they don't care for them medically, of course they do.
They're getting major care in the hospital.
They're absolutely, 100%. Although some people don't want, there's no activities, there's no opportunities, there's rare opportunities to go out. I'm talking about the people that we deal with. I'm not
yeah,
referencing your situation whatsoever. I'm talking about our local hospitals, when somebody, they're basically bedbound. I mean, I'm sure they get up for therapy or whatever, if that's doctor ordered. But we know, or the hospitals might be contacting us for that reason, but that's not the reason we care about. If we can leverage money from them, then I'm gonna do it, because we gotta take these people anyway. So it's the people that we care about, not the hospitals.
yeah, and we're looking at different things. The hospital is there for acute care.
Right.
And
Correct.
people are finished with the acute care. The problem is that there's not the long-term care beds available for a variety of reasons.
I mean, I hate to be like an accountant, but it's like, that's why, so the county's obligation is to pay the Medicaid portion up to the state cap, right?
Correct.
So wherever these people go, irrespective of where they go, we are responsible of the Medicaid payment up to the state obligated cap.
Right, which just got raised 3%.
And so to my point there is, what is the most of, the question I would ask then is, okay, we have to spend this money anyway, it's non-negotiable. What is the most effective way to spend those resources? And it's pretty clear from everything you're saying, and I think as we look at the county budget, that the Medicaid reimbursement is not enough to pay for the care of the people. I mean, it's not.
It's just as simple as, it's not any more complicated than that.
And so it's a problem of cuts at the state and federal level are being put onto the burden of the local.
But the sad part is, every dollar that's cut at the state
Right.
is losing a matching dollar from the feds. So it's not like the state is saving that. I said about a 30% reduction in the Medicaid rate. It's not like the state's saving that money. I mean, they're saving half that money. Because the other half would be paid for by the feds if the state paid its half.
Well, no, that's not true. The state is paying a little sliver. They're saving us, the county money.
I was talking about state, I was talking about, state as an obligation, which the state then gives to the county.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanna call it like it is, because.
Well, I just wanna make sure that we understand that it's not that 25 or 30% reduction in rate. Only half that is actually the government.
The governments.
The state or the county government's saving half that. The feds would pay the other half,
Yeah.
but the money's not there.
You're just leaving 50 cents on the dollar
We're leaving 50 cents on the dollar.
on the table when you operate that. That's something we've argued about forever. That's where ProShare and MQuick kicked in. Moving forward, if we're gonna try to figure out where we're gonna go, or what we think we're gonna do, there's only a couple of options here. There's three, actually, there's probably three options, at least from my perspective. One is we build a new nursing home and do business the way we've always done business. The second one will be something that will happen to us with an action of the legislature, which would be to push the counties or the long-term care system into managed care. Now, if that occurs, the legislature votes to put the long-term care supports and services into managed care. Then the counties are probably gonna get out of this business. Okay, now, when that occurs, it's gonna be inherently inflationary because someone's gonna make up this difference somewhere along the line. Someone's gonna make it up. Okay? The other thing is to maybe create some kind of public-private partnership with the private sector, which is the reason why we have to have these conversations with the private sector. Okay, because I'm a big private sector guy. Okay, I'm not some big government, left wing who wants the government to do everything. If there was a way we get the private sector to do this, I'd be all for it. Now, the legislature turned down multiple opportunities in the last 30 years to require nursing homes to keep people forever. Meaning, once you took them in and you started spending down their assets, the law was you were gonna keep them forever. When they went to do that, the healthcare association says, oh, no. You do that, we want an adjustment in rates, okay, up to $150 a day, maybe $200 a day, which was going to increase, again, the county's share or the state's share, in this case, the county pays the bill, of somewhere between 25 and 40%, right off the bat. You following me now? Okay. So the legislature says, we don't want to do that. We don't want to drive that cost up, 25 to 40% by one simple act, which is what will occur. I guarantee it will occur. Okay? Because we've studied it for decades and decades. So the last and final option that we might have is to create some kind of a unique public and private partnership which I think is a kind of a unique way of doing business, which is what Strafford County is famous for. Create some kind of dynamic where we could construct the building large enough, say somewhere around 300 beds, where the private sector would operate it. Okay, the private sector would operate the building. Say we use the split that we have now, 175 Medicaid beds and 125 private paying beds. And then we would just give them the building. We would build it and have them make the payment. Now, that's a unique dynamic that I don't think has been tried across the country, and I'm trying to see if there's been an example of it, of a public-private partnership in that space, okay? But it's something we ought to look at, because if we go to managed care, which is let's talk about the big picture here, never mind about who's talking to who. Let's look at the big picture. If we go to managed care, the nursing homes are gonna lose $60 million. Our share of that managed care, that loss of PSP money and MQIP money would be $60 million. Our share would be around.
It's not just ours.
Oh, that's right. It's
The private homes would also.
Right, lose money.
The private homes get MQIP,
They get MQIP.
like we do.
Yeah.
And they would, the CMS has said that if you go to managed care, those Medicaid
Incentives.
to take Medicaid people are gone.
I'm gone.
They don't exist in managed care, which is one of the reasons why if anybody's had a chance to read the report of the managed care committee, you'd see that was not one of their recommendations, because they recognize the loss of that $60 million in the system. So a lot of that goes to the counties, but it also goes to the non-county nursing homes. A portion of it does.
So, just so I understand what you're talking about, by saying going to managed care, you're saying we're gonna switch from traditional Medicaid or Medicare to privatized. that.
We're saying that we understand there's a bill going in the legislature to do that,
Yeah,
Yes.
John Stevens has been pushing for that.
Correct.
He's been pushing to try to get it done.
There was a committee formed, and that committee
Yeah.
issued a report, which is available to everybody.
Correct.
And in that report, it doesn't recommend that. But the legislation went in, and is my understanding, because we haven't seen the wording yet, we've just seen the bill titles.
Right.
My understanding is that if, that bill is going to be put forward to turn long-term care over to managed care, which was, that bill was, put in 2018 and it was defeated. And now it's come back up again. And that committee was supposed to address that issue. And it's addressed a piece of the issues, but it hasn't made a recommendation regarding that.
I still don't understand managed care, I'm sorry to be totally,
Managed care, no.
I'm totally like a
Managed care is pretty,
newbie, so like,
managed care is it's pretty simple. The state's gonna take right now we have three managed care companies in the state managing Medicaid for children and for infants and women
And adults.
and adults, whoever's on Medicaid.
okay.
Medicaid's a big program. Long-term care is just a piece of it. What would happen is those individuals would have to sign up, okay, with one of those insurance companies. And those insurance companies would then determine where they go for care, what kind of care they get. They manage their care
And the rates that are.
and the rates that are paid, right?
Yeah.
So if we went to managed care, the system itself collectively would lose roughly $60 million. That's what they estimate right now, the present system. Our share of that would be somewhere around, I don't know,
$8 million.
8 million, right? So we would have to have an $8 million increase in property taxes to make up that difference. That's the immediate difference. Okay,
So we just pay into managed care,
we would, well, if the law stays the way it is right now, we would pay into managed care.
okay,
You know that the part that says elder care in our budget, right? There's around 11 million or 9 million, whatever the number.
If this bill passed,
If this bill passed, what would happen is that's what would occur. That would happen probably over a 1 year or 18-month period, but that's what would occur. We would get a bill for another $8 million.
and then they would tell everybody where they went.
And they telling everybody where they're gonna go. Now, they're supposed to have choices in this of where they go. But we would take about an $8 million hit. Initially,
and that presumes they make no rate adjustment.
right. That's
But
what brings
remember,
to that.
that 8 million, that $60 million is not state money. That's federal money.
Federal money, right?
Okay,
That 60 million of federal money
Goes
will
away.
be gone.
It goes away.
It goes
Oh.
away.
Right.
And it's no longer available as a
To us.
reward for people who take a large number of Medicaid.
can the state make up the difference, or do we only?
Oh, yeah,
Sure.
No, wait, sorry.
yeah, sure, the state could make up the difference.
Yeah,
There's no question about that.
so, but is there anything triggering in legislation that says that if the federal government cuts its,
Good.
whatever, the amount that we get that we,
That's in the report. It's in the
Okay.
report, okay, that we would lose this money. But some people don't care whether we lose the money. They say, okay, well, we'll lose the money. All right, well, then I can share with you that the county commissioners just met statewide. And they said, if we go to managed care, the counties are. Now, everybody says somehow, you got a bunch of people say, well, that's a good thing. Okay, well, it's not a good thing. It is and it isn't. It depends on what the state does and how the state manages Medicaid. And what's in our state plan. How are you gonna handle Medicaid? Now, let me give you an example. Say we stayed in business just for grants. We got three adults sitting here with three different insurance companies that they're required to sign on to. This insurance company will pay for eyeglasses. This insurance company won't pay for eyeglasses. This insurance company over here will pay for hearing aids. This one won't pay for hearing aids. So what you've got is a management nightmare where the institution, in this case, Riverside, would have to hire staff because our billing and the requirements of the insurance company, because remember, this all gets managed by an insurance company, will be telling us what type of care and what type of benefit or lack of benefit each one of these individuals will get. So you could have roommates where you get a set of eyeglasses, but I don't. Even though we have the same problem. So
Or you get a certain medication.
you get a certain medication.
That happens now, by the way.
Right.
Yeah.
are we capped under managed care though, like we are
Well, it
now?
depends on what the legislature does. Now, are discussing whether we should have a statewide Medicaid tax. Now, if you really want to get into the reality of it, we're talking about if the counties are forced into managed care, then the counties want to get out of the business, and then we would have to have a statewide Medicaid tax. It would probably be on the property tax. It'd be no different than the state education tax. We would have a statewide Medicaid tax. And then that would pay the private managed care companies, because that's what they want. You gotta have a tax to pay for these things somehow,
Yeah.
okay? So they'd have a statewide Medicaid tax, which they would push for, which is not a bad thing in some respects. Depends on what you look at it. Our costs would get reduced. Well, two things would occur. If the law stays the way it is, our costs increase by $8 million. If you create a statewide Medicaid tax, that contribution would be eliminated from the county budget. And that would be collected by the state to pay for these services. So it's not a bad idea. It's a better way of funding the system. But the question then becomes, what's the state doing? How is it managed? How's the legislature going to manage it? That's what it comes down to.
Sorry to sidetrack the conversation,
I know that.
I'm just trying to learn how, because the hardest part for me personally with this is the funding structure of how it works and what the county obligation is. I mean, as I hear the argument for managed care and everything, I'm like, I mean, it doesn't sound like our obligation is always gonna be, unless they change the taxing structure.
Correct.
It is what it is.
Yep.
I mean, if they went to managed care, and the county says we don't want to be in the nursing business anymore, where do these 170 people go?
The insurance companies determine that. They negotiate deals with nursing homes.
That's correct.
They negotiate deals, and then they determine where they go. And the question becomes, who's paying for it? And that's the big.
Who's always paying for it?
Right,
It's us.
that's correct.
All this talking you're doing, the federal, the state, it's all our money.
That's
What's
right.
the difference?
That's right. No, I don't disagree with
There's
you.
no, the government's broke and, we'll get it, a handout from the federal government, the 38 trillion in debt. I mean, this is ridiculous. I don't think we should be figuring we gotta have a kingdom here that's always gonna be here, it's gonna grow. I'm not for that.
So what,
Yeah, I'd like to speak on all of this. I mean, this whole committee is put in place, so we're doing our due diligence in research, in reaching out to all these entities, which I've been doing. I've been doing a ton of work. And no disrespect, McGlaris, but I don't want any more talk. Whatever you're saying, numbers, this, that, whatever, managed care, put it in writing. Put it in writing and use your resources. Oh, for 30 years. I don't want that. I don't want any more talk. I want it all in writing. I have a preliminary long-term care option, and it's not in year 3 at all. So, and it's all census-based. And a lot of the things that have been talked about, that have been said over and over and over again, are just not true. So it's not ready to be printed out. I was gonna read it today, but I just feel as if we're going down the same path. Like, this is our committee. We're supposed to be doing the work. It's great if people are asking you questions and you're providing that, but it still seems like you're the driver of this bus. And it shouldn't be. The driver should be all of the data that we can get, national and state and then county, and then putting it all together from the census stuff, which I sent a spreadsheet, you guys filled it in, but you left 2 pieces that were very important, behavioral care and the memory piece. Those are blank. You left those blank, and I need that to finish my stuff. And I sent a message to Janet to have you fill that in, okay? So, and there's, and I'm getting information directly from the state as well. So I'm just gonna read you my summary. So this briefing provides a data-driven assessment of long-term care needs in Strafford County, New Hampshire. Contrary to the claims of an impending gray tsunami, state and national data show no surge in demand for Medicaid-funded long-term nursing home care. In fact, long-stay nursing home utilization has declined for over a decade, and policy trends continue to favor home and community-based services, HCBS, over large institutional models. That's fact. Riverside Rest Home has experienced a 30 to 35% decline in average daily census, the ADC, county's comparative younger demographic profile. The evidence supports capping RRH at 140 beds and planning for a gradual, fiscally responsible phase down of the county-operated nursing home model. Further, county-run homes impose significant long-term financial liabilities on taxpayers that private nursing homes do not. Private facilities bear their own retirement obligations, capital costs, and operating risks. County facilities shift these burdens directly onto the taxpayers. Additionally, county nursing homes undergoing renovation are grandfathered out of the many modern federal building code standards, artificially lowering the cost of renovations while masking future risks. The legislature should adopt a 140 bed cap for a Riverside Rest Home and initiate a long-term transition strategy grounded in demographic reality, taxpayer protection, and modern LTC policy. I have a lot of data that goes in this, and I have 18 different points, like I'm doing a paper basically that backs up every single one of my stats here. So in my little bibliography, and once this is done, you'll get it. But this is the piece that that bothers me the most. I came into the legislature in 2023, right? There was some things that were voted on and all of that kind of stuff. And $170 million, nursing home was just not in the cards. It was irresponsible to begin with. And for all of this time, which I said, and I'm on record of saying over and over and over again, shame on the people that have been here for a long time that actually didn't do some small renovations to increase their level of comfort and care in Riverside Rest Home. Okay. And instead, we went down this whole rabbit hole and wasted millions of dollars of taxpayer funding. And that's what I want done. I want to know every dime that was spent. I want to know the bonding. I want to know all of it for this whole project of Riverside Rest Home, because, whatever was taken out, whatever's been paid back, I want to know. $2 million, whatever, $2.5 million that was wasted, that we have nothing for. That money could have been used. People could have been moved out. They do it in hospitals all the time. I watch it all the time. Sectioning off a room. You could have made some private rooms specifically for that skilled nursing care, for the behavioral unit. You guys could have done a ton of stuff. You could have done all of the HVAC stuff. I know it. I've talked to the other nursing homes that have done it. And I talked to the hospitals that have done it. You could have done all of this kind of stuff. And we wasted and burned through that money, and no one's ever talked about it. All still it's pretty much a 7 to 10 year plan of a phase down. We could have made their quality of life and quality of care, with the problems with heating, with the problems, of course, they're cold in the winter and they're hot in the summer. We could have done all of this stuff. But instead, we've just gone down this path. And I wasn't part of this. And you know what? It's not a Democrat or a Republican issue here. All right. It's just people that just kind of don't want to dig. They don't want to dig in and do the hard work. And that's really what it comes down to. And shame on us for wasting taxpayer money on it. But that's what I believe should happen. That's what I believe the model should be moving forward. We do the best that we can. We give the best care that we can. We can renovate some of it, quality of care, and phase this down. And literally the level of, and I've already talked to 3 private nursing homes. I'm going to talk to every single one of them. And there's beds that are open. There's space that it's available. They are not saying, except for maybe the behavioral piece with Strafford County, where we're providing that kind of care, which is hard for them. Other than that, they've got it covered. And so I really believe that people aren't going to have no place to go. I'm not talking about that. This is not a heartless conversation. This is a fiscally responsible conversation that needs to be had. But the amount of money that has been wasted is just beyond me. And the people that I'm talking to, and this report that you guys all have, it was of course big. It's not that really, it's of course double spaced, so that's why. It's specifically, if you look at the results, even if you don't want to read the whole thing, it's not that long of a read. If you go to the results in the discussion, it basically talks about, there's been a lot of talk about how, our care on this side, on the public side, is better than private care. It's not true. It's not true. It was an incredible study that was done outside of UNH and statewide, and it shows that. And, by looking at the numbers and where we're taking in, we're getting a lot of people. I don't know. I'll have to talk to Rockingham, and I will. We're getting a lot of people here in Strafford County from Rockingham County. I get it. There's probably a tit for tat type of thing. I'll have to look into those specific numbers. I already have a contact that is going to be getting me that information, but my report is going to be all data driven and factual, and that's what I want. I don't want any more discussions. I'm tired of this, that, whatever, or what if, or no. I want the data. That's it. That's what should be done. That's how we should be handling this, and then we move forward with the best model, because we can't have any more pie in the sky type of, woe is me, gray tsunami, which the new commissioner is parroting that, and you've been saying that for a long time, and that's actually not true. That's not factual. So I want facts. If you're gonna back up something, you're gonna say it's gonna cost this, I want it. I want the numbers, I want the facts, I want you to do your due diligence like I've been doing. And sorry, I'm just frustrated, I fell, whatever, but this whole thing is getting out of control, and it is. And I'm even mad at some of my, fellow Republicans, because I feel as if, they should have done this hard work or whatever. We haven't done what we needed to do here, and we've let things go. And, just talking to some people that had family members at Riverside, and the level of care that they've gotten from the staff is incredible. And that is a testament to our county. There's no doubt about that. But to let that facility be freaking run down like this, and for us to burn through whatever it is, 2.5 million, 3 million, whatever it is, we're going to have to pay back that bond. And now we have an increased tax, whatever, because of the unicorn and all that kind of stuff of 1.4 million. And people are so struggling. I can't deal with it anymore. So it's time to get down to the numbers. And yes, if it means tightening our belts and figuring it out, that's going to have to be. And there's going to have to be some hard decisions. But I know that the taxpayers can't pay for at all, a $170 million project or even a $70 million project. That shouldn't have to be the case. We can do a ton of things with what we have right now and continue our care and actually be smart in basically drawing it down. And that's where I'm at. And you guys will have everything. I had already told Representative Howland that I'll have this ready. I think the deadline we wanted this all done by was like February 1st. I should have this done by the end of the year. So you'll have this probably by the new year. I won't deliver it on Christmas unless you want that as your present.
Okay.
But other than that, that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for doing all that work, and I look forward to getting
Okay.
your report.
Peter
Janet?
Schmidt has had his hand up for about 20 minutes.
Sorry. Peter. Sorry, I forget to look at the screen.
Thank you. I was wondering whether anybody could even see my hand. But Representative Potenza makes a number of important points, but some of the stuff you're saying, Kelly, I don't agree with. The idea that the commissioners and the delegation in its share of the blame has let the nursing home deteriorate and so forth. That's an accusation that is not fair, at the very least, if it's even accurate. The bottom line is that we have been paying thousands and in some cases millions of dollars to maintain the nursing home viability at all. The bottom line is some things wear out, replaced, or you got to have some kind of an alternative.
He's cutting in and out.
paying to keep the plant running at all. And we have standards that have to be met. We have standards that have to be met.
Representative Schmidt, you're cutting in and out. You're cutting in and out.
Will come down on us and they will say, fix it. So the idea you mentioned, for example, you have open beds. You don't need to see my face. Let's see if that helps. Bottom line, how is this any better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is this it? Okay. So I'm sorry for the cutout, but that's the nature of technology. That you mentioned private nursing homes which have open beds. How can that be if there's a demand? And the answer is because people cannot afford to go into the private nursing homes, and the insurance companies in many cases won't pay, just like some won't pay for glasses and others do. The insurance companies won't pay, and so we are stuck with a race to the bottom to some degree, and it's not been mentioned at all, but it's a real factor.
All right, Peter, thank you.
That
We're gonna...
all across the country, I'm not sure about New Hampshire, but all across. I'm sorry, I'm not done talking. That's not acceptable to shut me up. I'm the former chair and I've been dealing with this for 16 years. The bottom line is we have a responsibility, and even though Kelly, you said it's not our business whether the hospital is losing money. In a way, you're correct. But the bottom line is if the hospital closes, and Frisbee is on the edge of closing and would have closed 8 or 9 years ago if HCA hadn't come in and rescued them. So it's not as simple, and claiming that is basically that the commissioners and the delegation have let the nursing home go down the drain is simply not true, and it's certainly not fair. So I'm interested to see where your report, what it will show, but some of the issues that I've committed. Thank you.
Can I respond just to one thing, please?
Well, I think Janet's been waiting to
go
speak.
ahead.
So.
Thank you very much. Representative Jensen, thank you for your comments. I don't fully agree with you. We have a law that tells us we have a responsibility at the county level to take care of the neediest in our county. That's the bottom line. We have to answer to the feds who come in and do inspections, unannounced inspections, and they are very critical of what they see of the physical building as well as the quality of care. And we have met those requirements time after time. Many times we have a waiting list at the nursing home with a 215 bed limit. Now we're talking 175 and you're talking 140 and you want to phase out the county. It's a whole lot more complicated than you want this and that and the other. We have to deal with the federal laws. We have to deal with insurance companies. We have to deal with the neediest of the needy in our county. It's a whole complex issue. And we keep spinning our wheels talking about the same thing, meeting after meeting after meeting. Our responsibility now is to say, okay, this is what we have, this is what we need, how are we going to get there? Thank you.
And
Can I respond?
all right.
Okay, so Representative Schmidt and Representative Wall, that wasn't, what I said wasn't meant in a, like, we've dropped the ball completely. I came in 2023 and literally listened to and spoke to residents. I mean, I was part of this whole conversation, kind of thrown into it. and where you have people that are saying that they are cold in the winter and that they are dying in their rooms and stuff like that in the summer. That is, my husband's been in the business of HVAC and all of that for more than 20 years. I've been around it. I know it. So I know the space really, really well. And so I knew we could have done something. And so that's what bothered me. I am on the record of saying that. That to me, those issues should have been taken care of. It's not about dumping, $50 million into a building that is, in a sense, old and needs new. I understand that. It's way more expensive to renovate an old house than it is to build a new house. I get all that. I know all that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about quality of life. Like, quality of care has been in place. That's not a problem. That has been shown time and time again from, like you're talking about, where the feds come in and they give glowing reviews, and if there's things that need to be improved, they do. But there is quality of life issues that could have been taken care of versus us having this grandiose idea of this new nursing home. That's what I'm talking about. And those things were never an option on the table. And that's what I'm talking about. So
That's not true.
Well,
Some of the things you're saying are accurate. Some of the things you're saying are not true. First of all, number one, the county spends over $1 million a year maintaining that building. $1 million a year we spend. That's number one. Number two, we went to the county delegation with a plan to put mini splits throughout the entire building. Okay, to install mini splits to change the air quality in all those rooms. The initial cost was around $6 million. The cost went to about $10.5 to $12 million because of a bunch of things. Number one, asbestos. Okay, they had to punch holes in the wall and asbestos. The feds required us to change the windows out when we went to do that. Okay, which was another $2.5 million, roughly $2.5 million. So I went back to the county delegation when you folks, my delegation, before you were here.
that's correct.
Okay, before you were here, Kelly. So I spent more time in the urinal in this building than you've been here in public life. And I'm gonna tell you something.
Okay, well,
I came back to the
okay,
county
but that
delegation.
wasn't necessary. That wasn't necessary. You don't need to say, you don't.
attacked me.
No, I didn't. You didn't need to say that you spend more time in a urinal. This is the reason why this committee is so ridiculous.
So you can sit there and attack me. and-
I'm not attacking you.
You said,
I'm not
McLaren,
attacking
you're
you.
driving the train. You said,
You're
McLaren.
you're driving this train here. You've been driving the train the whole time, 40
all right,
years.
please, let's rein it in.
The point is that I went back to the county delegation and said, do you want to spend this 10 or 15 million on this old building? And the delegation, the executive committee says, no, that doesn't make any sense. So, I was all in favor of putting mini splits in there. I wanted to put mini splits in there when they first came out.
Yeah.
20 years
What
ago.
year was that?
But when Leo Lasad wanted to put, no. No. When Leo Lasad was here, he died, 5-6 years ago. Leo, we went to the county delegation. We were gonna put a dome. Remember the dome idea we were gonna put over the courtyard, and we were gonna put all this HVAC, stuff in. It was probably 6 or 8 years ago. And it was supposed to cost $600,000. That was the estimate we got. When we went in and we discovered the asbestos, that plan came back at $4.5 million. Just that, just the dome. So between the dome and the asbestos problems in the building and the cost to put the HVAC in, it went up over $20 million. And we said, I came back to the executive committee and says, do you really want to spend this kind of money on the building? And the executive committee said, no, we don't. And Leo Lasai was very, very adamant about wanting to put the dome on. But at the end of the day, the reality of it was that we were spending a ton of money.
I don't think we should go too farther back in the history of it, but my understanding and my perception of.
The county commissioners are being attacked for not taking care of the building. It's just not accurate.
I'm not attacking anyone. I didn't attack anyone.
All right.
I said everybody's responsible for it.
Okay, everyone's
I just
responsible.
want to put in my 2
Yeah.
cents, that it's clear to me that it would be really difficult with all the environmental hazards in that building, to renovate that building while simultaneously keeping 175 beds open. It would be really difficult. But I want to more look at what is our big picture idea for moving forward rather than focus on the specifics of any building, because I think there would be a lot of options once if we decide we have to move forward. Brett Kaczynski.
So recently, I have a close relative that was in a nursing home. And I never really went into this system. We're state reps. What do we know about this business? Well, when this person was ready to leave, I had some conversations with people in the administration. Cause things I always wondered about. Now, right from the start, in May 2022, we were told 38 people have to share one shower. Now, somebody on the outside, one of us says, well, geez, we take a shower every day. How can they do this? Well, I learned here when my relative, the nurse came in, it's time for your shower. And she said, oh, I don't know. I asked, I said, how often do you get a shower a week here? This is a private nursing home with double beds. Once a week. I said, take your shower. And she went and took her shower. So speaking with the administrator later on, they tell me there's a problem with older people. They don't take showers every day. It's not good because their skin's dry and there's reasons why they don't. We weren't told this here. We were told what I just said, okay? And when I spoke to this person, they didn't realize what's going on in the county. And what I was told is we're competing for the same patients. Oh, I want to look into this a little more. Now, this was just recently. I'm making appointments with people like Kelly did. Thank God she's doing the work and I look forward to see what the results are there. But again, here there's 2 people per room. So you say, oh, that's bad. Maybe it isn't that bad. My relative was pretty happy having somebody to talk to. I can imagine when you're old and lonely, laying by yourself in there, and I see some people look like they're on their last legs, you know? So not all of this stuff has been quite straight with us, in my opinion. I wondered about it. And I spoke with one nurse, and I talk to a lot of people when I go to these places. I like talking with people. And this nurse happens to be, I guess they call them an agency nurse, and she works at Riverside. She said, what a wonderful staff they got there. I said, that's what the word is. I said, they got high marks for this. I said, what do you think of the facility? She said, oh, the facility's all right, it's fine. I mean, this private one isn't exactly brand new. What was proposed to us, the county would put up would blow this out of the water. I don't know why anybody want to go to a place like this. So what I'm saying, I think you really got to get some of this information from other parties, really. And we got to look at this a little better here than just coming.
I think, the shower arrangement, that's pretty standard in most nursing homes, for the reason you say. I think the more compelling issue for me is that at Riverside, you have 2 double rooms sharing 1 toilet in between. That's 4 individuals for 1 toilet. That is, I consider completely unacceptable. And I think there are different ways you can look at meeting, the new CMS requirements if we build. But having each resident has a window. My mother's in a place like this, a shared room. That was a really hard step down for her to share a room. And I'm like, oh, at least she has the window. Her poor roommate has no window direct to her bed. So I think we should build to new standards, but I don't consider them excessive but I don't want to get into the specifics so much.
This is important because this is how this all worked up to this point, is we were told certain things here. I didn't know about them. Now when I talk to somebody, I find out, well, maybe this isn't so far out.
The toilets certainly are,
Hang on.
but
I just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
And Kelly said it, and she was right. The private nurse homes are telling you, oh, we get the same kind of care, except for behavioral, the component.
Yeah.
85% of that population over there is the behavioral component. This is not like you're talking about people who have all their faculties and you give them a ticket and they can go down and have a shower once a week. It doesn't work that way. They soil themselves constantly.
Correct.
Those people that are in our nursing home have behavioral problems. Okay? So let's start from just that premise. You're absolutely correct. The private nursing homes don't want the behavioral people because they can't make any money on them and they're staff intensive. Okay? So that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
No matter what kind of facility you build, whether it's private, whether we take the county out of the business, when the state requires the private nursing homes to take these people, which is, I'm fine with, knock yourself out, go do it. The behavioral component is what's driving the train. And those people over 85, whether you want to listen to the national statistics or not, these are national statistics by the National Association of Counties. A lot of counties don't run nursing homes. The national statistic is 8% of the population is going to end up having to use a nursing home. When I was first county commissioner, whether you want to hear it or not, there was only 5% of the population over there with behavioral problems. Only 5%. Because they died. Okay? They died. We were losing 90 to 100 residents a year. They didn't live very long. But we've done just the opposite. We've kept their bodies alive. Done a great job with that, but we haven't kept their minds alive. So 85% of those people have behavioral problems. The types of problems they have are staff intensive, and that's why they soil themselves constantly. They don't know what world they're in, okay? And that's why the private sector won't take those people. Now, if you want to pass a law that says, you guys are in charge of Concord, go to Concord and pass a law that tells them private nursing homes, you're gonna keep these behavioral people, whether you like it or you don't. Okay? Then you don't have to have a county nursing home. Get rid of it. Just pass a law, you're in charge, go up, pass a law and says, private nursing homes, you're taking these people no matter what, and take the county out of the nursing home business. You can do that, you have the power to do that. Okay? Just pay for it. Just figure out how you're gonna pay for it. Okay? And that's what it all boils down to. And in the future, someone's gonna have to take care of those behavioral people. That's the bottom line. The question is how?
Yeah.
And in what kind of facility? Okay? That's the big question we ought to be focused on. And whether or not we want the private sector to continue to pay for it in some form or manner and order them to pay for it by law. So you can take the county, you can wind the county down, take all the counties. When you go to managed care, all the counties will be out of the nursing home business. We'll be done. Okay, now nobody will buy that building. Maybe we can make a homeless shelter out of it. Maybe we do. I don't care what you do with it. Okay, I'm gonna be gone by then anyway. It won't matter. At the end of the day, you have to do some of that behavioral population. So make up your minds what you want to do, because there's big decisions being made out of Washington. They're financial in nature. Okay, and whether you want to hear that, oh, it's the federal money, it's the state money, it's the county's money, it's all taxpayers' money. Okay, and we want to do the best job we can based on those dynamics. The Strafford County Commissioners didn't create this system. This system was created by Nixon, okay, and Johnson, and has been added to since then by multiple administrations, Democrat and Republican, okay, over the course of time. And that's the way it is. So 85% are behavioral. So you remember that. We're not talking about people who have their minds here, that you can tell them to go over here and take a shower, wait 10 minutes. It doesn't work that way. They've all got dementia as a primary, secondary diagnosis.
Yes.
So I heard everything everyone's saying. Look, and I'll just take one bit of, that's not true. I do my work. And actually I've sent in 3 pieces of documents to have people read, this time. The first were from the New Hampshire Fiscal Policy Institute, which is nonpartisan. It's from 2019 and it's a really good report. I think it's essential because irrespective of, I'm a simple person. I am used to doing municipal bills, municipal budgets. Ultimately, I want to know how much this is going to cost me. And that's what I ask. And it's like, so the first thing is what is the New Hampshire Fiscal Policy Institute paper that I gave you. And that one is, what is the county's obligation? Because it doesn't matter, and which is what I just said here earlier. It does not matter where you send these people. ultimately, at the end of the day, we're gonna have to pay money.
I haven't.
Whether it's a managed care system where they tax us, where they send them to a private person, a private facility to send them. The law states that the county has an obligation to pay that share of Medicaid up to the cap, irrespective of where they go. So I wanted to, that's the foundation of our beginning conversation. So I think it's really important we have that, because I think we're getting caught up in the minutia of where you're gonna send the people.
Yeah.
The bottom line is we're still gonna get a bill.
That's right.
All right, so that's the first thing, and I'm of the mindset that you do not start to go into the minutia of the building if you don't understand the problem. It's a really bad idea, and we've already seen that. So I provided that. The other second piece that came in there, which we're gonna see over and over again, is that you cannot pay staffing right now enough to do the jobs. My daughter is an LNA at Portsmouth Hospital. It's like it pays $21 an hour for an incredibly difficult job. It's super hard to find the staffing. The other thing that's come up in there, which is like choices of independence, which is a way everybody universally agrees can save money. It's not funded enough, and they can't get the staff, and they can't pay them enough, so it doesn't work. So I included that report. And then finally, if that's not enough, I took my own time and went through, and because we couldn't go to Sullivan County and I didn't want to walk into a meeting and spend my time in like nebulous arguments, I thought we'd be focused. And so I gave you all the information I could find on the Sullivan County thing. I've been told I'm incorrect, at least on the last portion, because what they said is exactly what we said, is that they would pay for this without any tax impact. So they're disputing that. So, but this shows you exactly what their project is. I've included, by the way, all of my sources in here, which are from Sullivan County. Sullivan County is a unique situation that they had 3 buildings, and it really kind of worked. The renovation and new building really worked for their particular facility. They had 3 joined buildings, and again, I'm gonna be off, and I knew somebody's gonna say I'm wrong, because I'm going from just reading sources and not actual first sources going there, so we need more work on this. But they took down the oldest building. There were 3 buildings connected, one built in 1921, one built in 1970, and one built in 1997. And the 1921 is like so antiquated and bad, they were like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We'll take down the most antiquated building. We'll replace it with a new building, which is 79,000 square feet. At the end of completing the 79,000 square foot building, then what they would do is shift residents around and renovate the other 2 buildings. So the 2 other buildings, which is the Stearns building, is a 4-story, 58,000 square foot building. And the Connell building, which is the newest building, is a 14,005, you wanted numbers, these are all the numbers, 14,000 square foot single story building. And so they were doing it in a 6-phase construction project. So the first one, you take down the old Sanders building and you rebuild it. And then when the Sanders building is fixed, what you do is then begin to shift people from the older buildings into your new building. You renovate those. The renovation project really included each of those other 2 buildings. We're gonna get a single story addition to them. I've included in there, by the way, that's what the room looks like. That's from their picture. We can do a better job, I think, when we go there. And so when they did the renovation, then it said each resident gets a window and 2 residents share a bathroom. I don't have what the showers would be. Also included in the renovation project is enhanced physical rehabilitation units. I think that's really important because the skilled care is a different pot of money that gives you more money that goes up and above what the standard Medicaid is. It was foundational in the report of our paying for our proposed project last time was adding a skilled care, because leaving that on the table is really stupid. It leaves, it's a revenue source, but also it's hard on the residents leaving them out. And so clearly Sullivan County has built in skilled care in there to maximize the revenue they get to offset the cost.
Which was part of the proposal we had.
The only other thing, so I personally find this really interesting in the construction project. So in the renovation of the Sanders building, what they were doing, which is really cool, the biggest problem, and I see this in the housing segment, is that traditional stick-built buildings or traditional buildings are insanely expensive and they take really long. If you can cut down the construction time, it maybe won't save you money, but at least get you in on what your projected cost was. And so they were doing it with these like precast foundation that they were doing. And they set up so you could use modular construction, which is really a great idea. And that would help bring their costs down. And then last but not least, they disputed this. They say that I'm wrong on this, but it was actually from their report. So they've updated it. So what they were saying is, the project itself was $75 million is the budget for it. And it broke down, the second page breaks down your cost, and they are like so lucky compared to us. I wish, why isn't every construction project I'm involved with, the state money has dried up by the time we get there? But at any rate, you can see the state and federal grants are paying 45% of their project, which means that the $75 million project is actually only only $35 million is being picked up by Sullivan County. Their projection was that the annual bond payment was $1.991688 for a 25-year, $35 million bond at 3%. Their explanation of how they were going to pay for said bond and not increase the county tax rate, they said that they were getting a $2.4 million payment from ProShare, and coupled with an expiring $681,000 bond that they got from their community correction, they would be able to slide the bond payment into the county budget without spiking the tax rate. And then the last thing I put on there, I just put that on there because I didn't understand it and I don't know Medicaid rates very well, so I was going to ask a question. And then I just had Janet this morning, and I apologize for being slow on it. And I apologize to all the trees I keep cutting down to keep adding all the paper reports. But these are the current Medicaid reimbursement room rates for all the nursing facilities in the state. And so I think that's important because that gives you an idea of what we're actually, again, at the end of the day, we're going to come down to this point like, Medicaid only pays so much for the cost of somebody, and somebody has to make up the delta of the actual. Either going to have to get more efficient and reduce the cost of caring for that individual, or somebody's going to have to make up the delta for that cost. And so in the case that I've cleared out, and that's in the New Hampshire Financial Policy Institute thing, is that the current system is set up that the county, it picks up the lion's share of Medicaid, the state Medicaid, and additionally, the county also then picks up the overage of the actual cost of it. So, so that's my background. So just to defend myself, I did do work and I provided the work, and it's like, and again, it's foundational work, and I don't disagree with anybody putting any other proposal forward. But if you don't know how the funding and the billing goes, it doesn't matter because you can't pay for the building. And I keep hearing about taxes over and over and over again, and it's true. This is kind of a rigged system. If the county does get out of the business of the nursing home, somebody has to pay. And to your point,
That's fine. I'd like to pay locally because it's all coming out of our pocket.
It
I
is.
wanna know, and when you know, you do more efficient work when it's local than when you're dealing with these nimrods up in Washington and this money flow, what Medicaid, Medicare, that.
wherever the money is coming for, I just wanted to start us off that we start with the foundation, that these are the costs. These are going to be irrespective of what option we pick. This is the county's obligation. So I'm sorry for my long-winded.
Yeah,
One thing, you guys start talking about renovations, that's not an option on that building.
I
No.
I
The
absolutely
codes
agree.
now, they're gonna drive it right into the ground. If they walk into that building today, they could shut it down.
The thing about Sullivan too, I think the HVAC and all
They
that.
kept the building though. If you keep the building, you got a little more.
Right.
But
No,
you
but I
have
didn't think the
asbestos to
HVAC
deal
was in
with,
the
you have
building
fire
works.
alarm, you have electrical that's not right anymore. It's just.
Yeah.
The heating system, HVAC,
I mean, the difference, I think, what struck me with Sullivan County is like, they just decided the really old building, gonna tear it down.
Yeah,
And we've
But
already.
that was what, 1902 you said?
1921.
Okay,
But-
and how old's our building?
It's built from the fifties, isn't it?
We did the same thing to start, listen,
What, 78?
no offense,
Was it
we did the same thing to
78?
Sullivan County.
Yeah,
When I was working on the county delegation, we were occupying the arm. All you had was the
Yeah,
seventy-one
but it's not a
addition,
medical.
okay, built in 1880.
It's not.
Yeah,
We occupied the Arms House, and then we built the 71 addition, okay? And then when we built the 78 addition, we abandoned the Arms House and we moved into the 78 addition, after the 78 addition was constructed,
right.
okay? Dumont wanted to tear down the old Arms House, just what Sullivan County was talking about, and I fought him on doing that. I said, there's something we should do, we can do with this building. We don't want to tear it down. Okay? So him and I fought back and forth. Robridge ended up agreeing with me that we wouldn't tear it down. We went through the same cycle that Sullivan County did. We went through that in the 70s, okay? Just to let you know. Now, you could, I don't suggest we tear down any of these buildings. I would never agree with that because I think it's just dumb, okay? The buildings can be used for something, okay? They just can't be used for what we're doing, for a behavioral nursing home, okay? That's the part. They can be used for office, it can be used for anything. Who knows what it could be used for? Transitional housing, whatever you want to do. The private, non-profit sector would buy it. We've got people that have wanted to buy our nursing home. Big operations like Genesis wanted to buy it. But when they found out we had the asbestos problems,
They're gonna walk away.
and they all walked away. Every one of them walked away, because I voted to privatize Riverside 25 years ago, okay? I wanted the county out of the business, 25 years ago. Dumont and Robridge voted against it, which is okay. The bottom line is, nobody wants to buy the building, okay? They don't want to buy it because of its problems. So you need to understand that too. That's part of the deal we got going on here, okay? So whether we get out of the business, we stay in the business, we do basic public-private partnership, I'm for any of all these things. But you gotta figure out what you're gonna do with the people, because you're gonna pay for them one way or another.
Yeah.
That's
You're
it.
gambling with the building. If you keep it open the way it is, it's gonna be a problem sooner or later.
So
Yeah.
quick question for George,
Yeah,
the 71 edition,
right.
do you think that section could be rehabbed for a nursing home, but not the 1950s structure?
The problem, well, no, there's the 71 edition and the 78 edition.
71
Okay.
and 78.
71 and 78. The 71 edition, they both have asbestos, okay? Both buildings have asbestos. So the 71 edition was a much better built building than the 78 edition. The 78 edition, if you would just go look at the physical aspects of the building, you can tell. 78 was done basically as an auction by the delegation. Commissioners came in and asked for, I think it was $3.2 million at the time. And the delegation says, we'll give you 1.8. So we slapped it up. So they slapped it up, and when they slapped it up, if you look at the actual physical building of the 78 edition versus 71, there is huge differences.
Yeah.
Huge differences. 78 edition cost us a lot of money to maintain, okay? The 71 edition had glazed block. It was constructed with glazed block. The heating systems were put in a different place. There was a bunch of stuff that took place that made the 71 edition a better edition, okay? They didn't do it on a cheap.
How did they have asbestos in 1978? It was outlawed in 1978, and before 1978,
Well, we occupied-
people knew it was no
No,
good.
we occupied the building in 78. It was
But
constructed.
nobody knew in the 70s because it got officially outlawed in 1978.
I know, but we occupied the building in 78. We didn't build it in 78. It got occupied.
So nobody knew that before
It wasn't
1978.
a code.
It wasn't a code issue, right? They filled the wall with asbestos, okay, to make it fireproof, because that was the fireproofing that they had in the day.
Codes.
Okay.
And that's what's gonna kill you on this building.
That's what's gonna kill you in any building is
Well,
codes.
that's the people that voted in the 2015 life safety.
We
code.
still
That's
have to
what
deal
that
with
is.
this.
So
Yes.
I would just like to make a couple more comments.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of talk about, the census and what are the projections, some people say like, there's a lot of data to suggest we're gonna need so many nursing home beds.
Right.
And that nursing home beds are declining, but part of that is because we have this other whole industry of assisted living, private assisted living. Which
Right.
for the most part is, they're all for profits. There are a few nonprofits that operate assisted living. And maybe we want to think as a county, you know, keep the nursing home beds, which are by far the most expensive, to operate sort of at a minimum. But we also build an assisted living facility that perhaps can be managed by a nonprofit organization, but will provide that level of care for people who need it that is not being met by the private sector. You know, like
Well, they're not,
Covered Bridge is an example, but that's not even assisted living. That's just semi-supportive housing and discounted housing. Because I think some people end up in the nursing home because they really have nowhere to go. Even if they could have choices for independence, they may live in a really subpar housing situation that they're not gonna be able to care for at home. So I wanna look at keeping some of those options on the table. So it's been 90 minutes. We should probably wrap it up. Rep. Potenza's preparing her report of suggestions. And perhaps you're collaborating with some of your colleagues, and maybe we can work as a subgroup and work on a report of, try to put together how we see the data and how we want to look at how we want to move forward. Also by the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, my big thing I wanted to make sure it is that the background information stuff that I did, that the delegation understands it. Cause I'm just saying this, if I didn't understand it, I'm gonna guess that there's more people in the delegation that don't. And I think having that in our report is really important, so people can understand.
Yeah, but the Fiscal Policy Institute has an updated version, so you've
Yeah.
got 2019, I'm working with them on 2023 data, so that negates a lot of what you have there.
I certainly would apologize. I was pulling more, that just was a good background information. What hasn't really changed in that fiscal policy report is the percentage of Medicaid that is borne out by the county is still above 90%, you know, so.
and the expansion of home and community-based services is absolutely necessary.
Correct,
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
really,
I mean,
pretty much, my report is really focused on
I mean,
that.
I would, well, honestly, I welcome, and the Sullivan County one too. I mean, I wrote it without actually visiting it, so it's just a rough draft. But it was really abundantly clear to me when I looked at it that obligation question is really important.
I convinced the counties to pay for home and community-based services because the state was unwilling to do that. We pay for home and community-based services now as part of Medicaid. I convinced the counties to do that over 25 years ago, okay?
Yeah.
And we didn't have any back then. We had just B&A services and homemaker services. So the HICFIC services, which there are right now about 3,500 slots statewide. We have 3,400 nursing home people in Medicaid beds, 3,400, we've got 3,500 in HICFIC. HICFIC's gonna be the answer to the future.
Correct,
Because it needs to be expanded so that we don't have to institutionalize people.
that's correct.
But it's not the only answer. You still have the behavioral component. If you want to, it's simple, just pass a law, tell the private sector, they have to take these people no matter what. No matter what. Now, when you do that, it'll have an impact on costs. There's been 3 studies done on this by HHS regarding what that cost would be. And depending on each of how you want to pay for it, I think we ought to have a statewide Medicaid tax and eliminate the county's portion of Medicaid tax. I think that's the fairest way to do it. I talked to the former commissioner last night on the phone at 10 o'clock last night. He was talking to me about all the things we had worked on. The work has all been done on most of this stuff. It's just a matter of whether you have the political will to do it. The legislature has to force the private sector to keep these people. And when they do, they're gonna send you a bill for it, and you gotta pay for it. And so that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, we can't force the private sector to.
Absolutely no.
Yeah, you can't force the private sector to do anything. I I
Well, then we're
understand.
back here having the conversation then, Kelly, well, what's the government's
Yeah.
role? If you're not gonna force the private sector to keep them,
Okay.
then the county is gonna have to step in, or the state is.
I don't believe that, I understand where he's coming from. I don't believe it's gonna have to be an effort of, like, let's say, force. It's basically, they're gonna be in a situation where they have to keep them because they're not gonna just throw them out on the street. So there's that piece. So it's not, you don't have to use you don't have to use the government necessarily to fix that, but I understand what you're saying. If the county is not an option anymore, then private is gonna have to be forced, not by force of law, but by force of just, they're not gonna
Well,
throw
and
somebody
force
out on the
of
street.
backs up force of law. So, no, we're not using force.
Yeah, I didn't say we're no doing any force.
Well, he's
so-
saying it, and no, we're not doing that.
Okay, so in any case, the behavioral piece is what I touched upon, but I didn't get, and I know we wanna wrap this up, but I didn't get into the specifics of that. So the points that Representative Kaczynski made in regards with combined rooms, there's a piece of that. But when it comes to behavioral, it is extremely important to have a private room. And because the level, and these are experts that have been in this field for a long time. And so the level of agitation and all of that it can create with other folks that don't have those types of issues, true mental health deterioration issues is huge. And it's everything. It's not just, of course, on other residents or patients. It's basically even on staff and all of that. So if there was an opportunity to take what we currently have right now and be able to, like I said, you draw down and you have that behavioral piece and you can make those single rooms like that, that would be very, very helpful. I'm not talking about, this isn't a phase out that would happen in 2 years. This is a 7 to 10 year type of program. And of course, a lot of this type of stuff has everything to do with what happens on the state level, what happens also on the federal level, all of these types of things. But if you think about it right now, we've got all of these programs, right? You've got, let's just even look at lottery. You've got lottery that's only designated to education. Why not, if the pot of money, because there's millions of dollars in that pot of money in the education trust fund, for example, which the legislature has fought, Republicans and Democrats keep fighting over, but there's been millions of dollars that have sat in there that are for early childhood and designated for that. What if a piece of that was, I know, but what if a piece of that was designated towards what we're talking about here, talking about for that level of, instead of the county paying for it, it's coming from the state and it's coming from revenue that's coming in, generating from that. So, that's, those are things that we should be looking at. So it's not just increased in property taxes.
All right, so you said that you would like to, for the end of the year, to maybe keep working.
Yeah, I would love that. I mean, my deadline was my own personal deadline. We talked about, you wanted something to be able to deliver to the delegation by in February. So my head was, there was a mid-January deadline, but I want this done by the end of the
I'm
year.
pushy, but I'm not that pushy.
Okay.
So we can also be working on a report, perhaps from a different perspective.
Correct.
Suggests for the future. So maybe we would not meet in December, but re-meet in January with
That'd be great.
reports
Just a check-in.
provided to
Correct.
everybody a couple of weeks in
And it
advance.
could be like, we could have a meeting, for example, let's say we have a meeting in early January, right? And then, we are all passing around drafts and stuff like that, we could take our reports and they can be a combined report. They could be. I mean, that very easily, we can do that as well. Here's an option here, here's an option 1, here's an option 2, maybe there's an option 3, whatever it may be, we can totally do that. But maybe it's just a draft version
Yeah.
where we can then all collaborate afterwards and be
Yeah.
like, hey, could you look into this? Could you
How
change
about-
this or whatever?
January 9th, the second Friday of January, for reconvening.
That works for me. What about you?
Can't think that far ahead.
We're probably having session days on Wednesday and Thursday.
Unfortunately, we have session days, but it would be,
We do have session on Wednesdays and Thursday. We'll have like I think the first, you know how they did it last time? They had like two days in a row, just in the beginning.
That's what.
And then there was nothing for a while.
so the Friday the 9th, it would be kind of painful because we have to come in, but at least we would get it started, because after that, it's gonna get crazier because we're gonna get.
It will, committees and stuff.
Can we do the 9th then?
Yeah, we can totally do that. I don't think committees start though they won't start until February. So,
I don't know.
right?
It depends on how many bills the committees are
I'm
getting.
gonna
They
get
haven't decided yet, but
Yeah.
they'll probably start hearings in January or something.
You think
Some
so?
committees.
Some of them. Well, the ones that are busy, definitely, education, or possibly, I think, Representative Lamontagne, you're on HHS, right? Yeah, that's a busy committee, so.
So. We'll aim for the 9th then.
Let's do that.
We'll write that up. Okay.
Do a motion to adjourn, and we have to roll call on the motion to adjourn. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Do roll call. Oh,
Okay.
I'll do it. You know what? I'm so used to like, running.
Yeah.
All right, so, so the motion is to adjourn. Representative England,
Yes.
me, yes. Representative Kaczynski,
Yes.
Representative Lamontagne.
Yes.
Representative Rochelle,
Yes.
Representative Potenza,
Yes.
Representative Wall.
Yes.
It is unanimous to get to leave. Yay.
Okay.
So you need a